Hi, and welcome to Reddit Confessions. Today's story begins not with love, not with loss, but with a hand. My hand. Resting gently on hers at a crowded table. And the moment she yanked it away like I had burned her. Get off me. It's embarrassing, she muttered, loud enough for everyone to pretend not to hear. That's all it took. One sentence. 7 words. That's how you destroy a man who's already trying to glue himself back together. Everyone at the dinner table kept chewing their overpriced appetizers like nothing had happened. One guy laughed nervously. Another raised his wine glass to break the tension. And her? She smoothed her napkin on her lap like she hadn't just stabbed me with a sentence. That was 5 days ago, and I haven't touched her since. Not because I'm mad. Because I'm afraid she'll pull away again. My name's Lyle, and I guess you could say I've been disappearing quietly for about 19 months now. No funeral. No warning. Just, erasing myself from a marriage that started feeling like a waiting room. We're still technically married. Still live in the same house. Sleep in the same bed, though I've recently migrated to the edge like I'm allergic to taking up space. She doesn't notice. Or if she does, she doesn't care. But back to that moment. The touch. She acted like I had embarrassed her by doing something unspeakable. All I did was place my hand on hers while the waiter refilled our water. I didn't even look at her when I did it. It was just a reflex. Like breathing. And she recoiled. Like I was a stranger brushing her knee on a subway. Later that night, she scrolled through her phone in bed while I sat on the floor of our bathroom, staring at my own hand, the one she rejected. I know that sounds dramatic, but I needed to see it. To remind myself it wasn't made of thorns or rust or something worth flinching from. That was the 3rd time in the last 2 months she's pulled away from me in public. But it was the first time she said it out loud. It's embarrassing. You know what's embarrassing? Begging your own wife to love you. Pretending her silence is just exhaustion. Cooking her favorite meals and eating them alone while she says she already grabbed something. She used to be full of life. Full of laughter and chaos and lemon-scented everything. Now. She moves like she's late to something I wasn't invited to. And the worst part is, she's happy again. Just not with me. The smiles still exist. I see them. They just happen over phone screens. In car mirrors. On walks I'm not included in. So after that dinner, I stopped asking questions. I stopped reaching out. I stopped hoping for forehead kisses and "text me when you get there" messages. But I did one thing I never thought I would. I waited until she fell asleep. I tiptoed downstairs. I opened her laptop, the old one, the one she thinks I forgot the password to. And what I found wasn't an affair. Not exactly. No explicit photos. No "I love yous." But there was someone else. His name is Kellen. And the messages? They were worse than romantic. They were emotional. Personal. Deep. The kind of messages you send when someone makes you feel seen, the way she used to look at me. You're not crazy. He doesn't deserve your spark dying like this. It's brave to admit you're unhappy. Most people never do. I'll wait. You know I will. I didn't breathe for a full minute. Not because of what she wrote, but because I recognized how she wrote. She was alive in those texts. Warm. Engaged. Real. She hadn't spoken to me like that since the pandemic. Maybe longer. The next morning, I made her coffee like always. She took it without a word. And I said nothing. Because this time, I knew. It wasn't about the hand I touched. It was about the life I could no longer reach. There's a kind of silence that doesn't come from peace, it comes from restraint. From holding back everything you want to say because you know that if you open your mouth, the truth will come crashing out and burn the entire room to ash. That was me the morning after I found the messages. I stood in our kitchen, watching Mara sip the coffee I made, acting like nothing was wrong, while my insides trembled like a frayed power line in a storm. I couldn't ask her. Not yet. I didn't know how. How do you say, "Hey, who's Kellen, and why are you more alive talking to him than you've been around me in years?" You can't. Not without sounding desperate. And I've been plenty of things in this marriage, tired, ignored, unwanted, but I wasn't ready to add pathetic interrogator to the list. So I waited. I watched. I listened. Every time her phone buzzed, I felt my spine go rigid. Every little smile she gave, that screen chipped away at whatever self-worth I had left. And every hour I didn't speak up, I could feel the rot spread deeper. But something inside me, maybe cowardice, maybe hope, told me to hold off. To collect more. Understand more. Because if I was going to say something, I needed to know the full truth. That night, she went out. Said it was just a movie night with her coworker Tanya. Tanya's name has always been her default shield, a nice girl, totally believable, someone who wouldn't raise suspicion. Except Tanya had posted on Instagram. And she was at home. Alone. With her cat. Watching a baking show. So who was Mara with? I couldn't take it anymore. I didn't even pretend to relax. The moment she left, I opened her laptop again. This time, I dug deeper, the synced messages, the calendar entries, even her Uber receipts. One stood out. Pick up, our street. Destination, the Artisan Hotel. An hour before she told me she was just heading to Tanya's. No return trip logged. The Artisan is a boutique hotel downtown. Small, expensive, intimate. Not the kind of place you go for margaritas and gossip. I felt sick. I had all the data, the clues, the timestamps, but no pictures. No confirmation. No smoking gun. Just this cold pit in my stomach and a brain screaming at me to stop looking. But I didn't. I found one more message. One that was buried under dozens of harmless ones. It wasn't even from Kellen. It was to him. I miss the way you talk to me. It feels real. I hate pretending at home. That was it. No scandal. No affair in capital letters. But enough to feel like a betrayal that wore my clothes and used my kitchen. I didn't sleep. I stayed on the couch, wrapped in a blanket she crocheted during our second winter in the house. The same one she once joked would last longer than our marriage if I didn't stop snoring. I watched the door like a guard waiting for a prisoner to return. When it finally opened, I acted calm. "Hey," she said casually, like I hadn't been pacing in 1,000 circles in my own head for the past 4 hours. Her makeup was too perfect for movie night. Her perfume still lingered in the hallway like guilt pretending to be glamour. I wanted to ask her everything. Where she went. Who she was with. Why she didn't look at me the same way anymore. But instead, I asked, "Did you have fun?" She nodded. Said nothing else. Went to brush her teeth. And I sat there like a fool, replaying that message over and over. I hate pretending at home. It echoed louder than any fight we'd ever had. But here's the real kicker. The next morning, she reached for my hand. In the kitchen. Out of nowhere. Soft, slow, almost gentle. Like nothing had happened. Like she forgot she'd once flinched from the very same touch. Like I was supposed to believe this meant something. I froze. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. She wasn't trying to reconnect. She was managing the illusion. You'd think when someone lies to your face, it would come with fireworks, a dramatic pause, a guilty twitch, something. But that's not how it happens. At least not with Mara. Her lies land so softly, they almost sound like lullabies. And maybe that's the worst part. I wasn't married to a bad liar. I was married to a convincing one. And that made everything harder to unravel. After she reached for my hand in the kitchen, I pulled away. Just a little. Just enough for her to notice. Her eyes flicked to mine with this look, not of hurt, but calculation. Like she was running a script and my reaction had broken her rhythm. She covered it quickly, gave me a tight smile, and went back to making her smoothie. Vanilla protein, almond milk, frozen banana, the usual. It hit me then how mechanical everything had become. We were like two coworkers sharing a kitchenette at a job neither of us applied for. Later that night, she mentioned she had plans again. A wine tasting with her yoga group. I wanted to ask for details, where, with who, why now, but I didn't. I just nodded and said, sounds fun. Because that's what cowards do when they're trying to catch someone red-handed, they smile while setting the trap. The second the door closed behind her, I grabbed my jacket. My hands were shaking. I hadn't done something like this since I was a teenager tracking down my brother to make sure he wasn't sneaking off with my car. But this time, it wasn't about sibling rivalry. It was about survival. I didn't follow her car. I couldn't, she took a rideshare. But I had the name of her yoga group, the one she mentioned weeks ago but never really talked about again. I googled it. Found their event calendar. Nothing scheduled for tonight. That's when my gut stopped whispering and started screaming. So I took a guess. I searched the location history from our shared grocery app, the one she forgot to unlink when she upgraded her phone. It showed one recent pin, Miller and Finch Wine Bar. Not far. A cozy place tucked behind a bookstore. Romantic lighting. Soft jazz. Not where you go to sip casually with acquaintances. I parked a block away. My heart was pounding, and every step I took toward the wine bar felt like betrayal, not of her, but of who I used to be. I wasn't the guy who spied. I was the guy who trusted. Who made tea when she had cramps. Who rubbed her shoulders on the couch during slow movie nights. I was a husband. But now. I was an investigator with no badge, just desperation. I stood across the street. Watched through the window. It didn't take long. She was there. At the bar. Laughing. Leaning in. And beside her was a man in a dark gray coat. Neatly trimmed beard. Confident posture. He wasn't just a friend. I could tell by the way she looked at him, like he was her home and I was just a mortgage she was trying to escape. I couldn't hear their words, but I didn't need to. I saw the way she tucked her hair behind her ear. The way her hand rested on his knee under the counter. My stomach turned. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was that I knew him. Kellen. He used to work with her. Years ago. I remembered the name now. He came to our house once for a small party, brought a bottle of red and complimented the throw pillows like he was auditioning for a role. I didn't think much of him back then, maybe a little too smooth, but harmless. Apparently not. I didn't go inside. What was I going to do? March up and cause a scene? Force her to explain it away in front of him? No. I'm not confrontational. I just wanted confirmation, and now I had it. I drove home slowly. Windows down. No music. Just the sound of my own breathing, shallow and uneven. I walked into the house and sat on the edge of our bed, staring at the dent her pillow made. When she finally came home, around midnight, she was smiling. She dropped her heels by the door and called out, "It was great. I'll have to take you sometime." I nodded. Then I lied. Looking forward to it. She kissed me on the cheek. It felt like a stranger's mouth. That night, as she slept soundly beside me, I laid awake and thought about the quiet kind of betrayal, the kind that doesn't scream or slap. The kind that laughs at someone else's jokes while you're home folding their laundry. The kind that calls your touch embarrassing, but saves the best of themselves for someone else. And then I made a decision. I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. I was going to make her show me who she really was. All I had to do was stop pretending I didn't already know. There's something strangely powerful about pretending not to know the truth. Once you stop trying to fix things, once you stop asking for honesty and just watch, you start to see people for who they really are. That's exactly what I did. I let her lie. The next morning after the wine bar, she acted like everything was normal. Toasted a bagel, scrolled her phone, asked if we were low on laundry detergent. I stood there, watching her from across the kitchen, amazed at how easily she moved through our routine like she hadn't spent last night emotionally cheating on me under the dim glow of overpriced Cabernet. And the most twisted part? I was impressed. Genuinely. It takes effort to be that calculated. I didn't bring it up. Didn't mention Kellen. Didn't say I knew she wasn't with Tanya. I just made coffee, nodded when she asked about my schedule, and even smiled when she kissed me on the temple like a nurse checking a pulse. But something shifted in me. I wasn't hurt anymore, not in the same way. I was alert. Watching. That week, I left a trail of quiet breadcrumbs. Not to catch her, I already had. But to give her the chance to come clean. To see if, by some miracle, the guilt would crack her polished exterior and let something human bleed through. The first test was small. I left her iPad on the bed, unlocked, with the screen pulled up to her text thread with Tanya, the one that ended days ago. She saw it. Picked it up. Froze for half a second. Then casually closed the tab and tossed it on the nightstand. Strike one. 2 days later, I told her I bumped into Tanya at the grocery store. She said she hasn't seen you in weeks, I said, stirring my cereal. Mara blinked. A pause. Then the lie came clean and practiced. Oh, she must have forgotten. We've just been texting lately. I nodded slowly. Right. Strike two. But the third was the one that told me everything I needed to know. We were sitting on the couch Saturday evening. Some mindless show on. She was scrolling through her phone like she always does, her face lit more by the screen than by anything between us. And I asked, "You ever talk to Kellen anymore?" Her body didn't even flinch. But her thumb stopped scrolling. Just for a second. "Kellen," she repeated, too casually. "Not really." "Why?" I shrugged. "Just thought of him the other day. He was always a little too smooth, wasn't he?" She chuckled. "Yeah. I guess." Then she stood up and said she was going to bed early. Claimed she was exhausted from work. But her face? Her face was alert. Wide awake. And her phone never left her hand. I waited 5 minutes. Then 10. And sure enough, I saw the soft light of her screen glowing through the crack of our bedroom door. She wasn't sleeping. She was texting him. I sat in the dark living room, heart pounding, and realized I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even jealous. I was tired. Tired of chasing her shadow. Tired of begging for crumbs of affection. Tired of having to convince myself that I deserved more than to be someone's backburner spouse. I started thinking about the last time she actually looked at me. Really looked, not through me, not past me, but at me. I couldn't remember. The memory had been replaced by 1,000 moments of neglect, rolled eyes, half-listened conversations, and forced laughter. I used to think if I just proved myself again, worked harder, smiled more, gave her space, she'd find her way back to me. But now I saw the truth. You can't outlove someone's indifference. And here's where the story takes a turn I never expected. The next morning, she woke up early. Made me breakfast. Pancakes. Turkey bacon. Even fresh squeezed orange juice, which she used to only do on birthdays. I stared at the plate like it was radioactive. "What's the occasion?" I asked. She smiled. "Just felt like doing something nice." Nice. As if she hadn't erased me one glance at a time. As if feeding me was a peace offering for the emotional eviction she'd issued months ago. But I played along. I smiled. Said thank you. Ate the pancakes. And then, when she left the house to run errands, I did something I swore I'd never do. I logged into her email. Not her messages. Not her socials. Her email. Where real logistics happen. Travel confirmations. Appointments. Receipts. And that's when I found it. A hotel booking. Under her name. For the following Friday. 2 guests. Same place I saw them at before. The Artisan. My hands went cold. The world stopped spinning for a moment. It wasn't theoretical anymore. She wasn't just flirting with disaster, she was reserving a table for it. So I closed the laptop. Sat back. Breathed deep. And smiled for real this time. Not because I was okay. Not because I had a plan. But because now I had proof. Not for her. Not for a fight. But for me, to stop doubting what I felt all along. The woman I loved was gone. And the one who replaced her. She just invited me to her own downfall. I didn't sleep the night before the reservation. Not because I was nervous, though I was. And not because I was planning some dramatic confrontation like in the movies. No. I didn't want a scene. I didn't want revenge. I wanted truth. Cold, clear, undeniable truth that didn't hide behind half smiles and passive excuses. The kind of truth that doesn't need to be shouted. Just witnessed. So when Friday came, I acted like it was any other day. I kissed Mara on the cheek before she left for dinner with an old friend from college. She wore that emerald blouse, the one she used to save for our anniversaries. She curled her hair and dabbed perfume on her wrists, even behind her knees. I hadn't seen her that alive in months. That should have broken me. But it didn't. It validated everything. She left around 6. By 6:15, I was already dressed, dark jeans, clean shirt, quiet shoes. I didn't want to be recognized. I didn't want to interrupt. I just wanted to see. I parked across the street from the Artisan. The windows were slightly fogged, but the view inside was clear enough under the warm, golden lights. The place was bustling, but intimate. Soft music hummed in the background. Servers moved like shadows. And there she was. Mara. Laughing. Leaning forward across a candlelit table. And across from her, Kellen, just like last time. Only this time, they were seated deeper inside. More private. More secluded. What hit me hardest wasn't their body language or the wine they were sipping like a couple in a rom-com, it was the way she looked at him. Like she had never been tired in her life. Like she had energy, joy, breath. All the things I hadn't seen from her in years, not since the last time she said, "I missed you," and actually meant it. I felt like a ghost. Like I had already died in her world, and now I was just some former chapter she had edited out of her personal story. And he, Kellen, he was the new plot twist. The man she was willing to start fresh for. I should have left. But I didn't. I waited. I watched. I counted how many times she touched his arm. How many times he made her tilt her head back and laugh. It was a kind of tally I never thought I'd be forced to keep. Then, around 8:30, something changed. They stood up. Grabbed their jackets. Paid. She looked over her shoulder, not at me, not toward the window, but toward the hallway that led to the hotel lobby. They weren't just having dinner. They were checking in. My chest tightened, but I didn't move. I stayed rooted to the sidewalk, like if I just stayed still long enough, the whole illusion would crack and she'd come rushing out with some explanation, some ridiculous lie I could pretend to believe one last time. But no. She vanished with him into that hallway. Into the elevator. Into that room. And that was the moment, not when I saw the messages, not when she pulled away from my hand, not even when she lied about Tanya, that was the moment I realized I didn't love her anymore. I loved a version of her that hadn't existed for a long, long time. The woman I married would have cried if she knew she was hurting me like this. The woman I loved would have turned down 1,000 Kellen types just to come home and watch bad TV with me in sweatpants. This version. This Mara. She was someone else entirely. And she didn't deserve me sitting out in the cold like a forgotten pet waiting at the back door. So I left. I drove to a diner, the kind that never closes. Sat in a booth with cracked vinyl and ordered black coffee I didn't even want. I just stared at the steam. Watched it disappear like all the promises she once made. And then, I did something I hadn't done in weeks. I texted her. Hope dinner's good. Don't forget to bring your charger home. That's it. I wasn't looking for a reaction. I didn't want a fight. I just wanted her to know, I knew. No more pretending. No more games. No more silent dinners and grocery store lies. She didn't respond. Not that night. Not the next morning. Not until 1:47 p.m. the following day. Her message read. Sorry, I left my phone on silent. Dinner was fine. I'll be home late. I stared at the screen. The message. The gall. And I realized something so bitter it almost made me laugh. She wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. There's a strange clarity that comes after heartbreak settles into your bones. It's not peaceful, not like acceptance. It's more like standing in a demolished house and finally seeing the sky where your ceiling used to be. There's nothing left to hide behind, no walls, no roof, no illusion that this was ever safe. After Mara's pathetic attempt to downplay the previous night, that little text about dinner and being late, I didn't reply. Not because I was being dramatic. But because silence felt like the only honest language left between us. She came home around 9 p.m. the next night. Calm. Clean. Not a hair out of place. She put her keys in the bowl by the door, took off her heels, and headed to the kitchen like it was any other Saturday. I watched her move around the space we built together, measuring coffee grounds, opening cabinets, humming a tune that made my chest ache. That tune used to be ours. I stayed in the living room, lights low, pretending to scroll through my phone. But I wasn't really pretending. Because that's when I got a message. Not from her. From someone I never expected. Kellen. At first, I thought it was spam. The name popped up in a DM on an old social media account I barely used. But there it was. His face in the tiny profile bubble. His words blinking on the screen like a slow bomb. You and I need to talk. It's not what you think. I stared at the message for a full minute before I laughed. Out loud. Mara was in the kitchen when she heard it, asked what was funny. I told her I remembered a dumb joke from work. She didn't push. She rarely did when it required emotional depth. I didn't respond to Kellen right away. I let the message sit. Let him stew in whatever regret or manipulation he was trying to sling my way. But curiosity eventually won. Later that night, I replied with just 3 words. Then tell me. He answered within minutes. Said he didn't want to type it. Said he needed to meet. Said he'd explain everything. I agreed. Not because I wanted his apology. But because I wanted answers, not about Mara anymore, but about him. Who was this guy she'd been emotionally orbiting for God knows how long? Why him? What did he have that I didn't, besides teeth white enough to blind traffic and hair that never moved? We met at a park the next morning. Neutral ground. He looked tired. I expected him to be smug, confident, maybe even defensive. But he wasn't. He looked like a man who had just learned he'd been sleeping in someone else's house without knowing it. Before you say anything, he started, I didn't know she was married. I almost laughed again, but I didn't. She said you were separated, he continued. Said you were still living together for financial reasons, that it was over a long time ago. My stomach turned, but I stayed quiet. She told me you'd moved on. That you were dating someone, too. That's the only reason I. He stopped himself. Looked away. Then back at me. I'm not trying to make excuses. I need you to know I didn't come into this trying to wreck anything. I looked at him for a long time, trying to read the truth in his face. And, to my surprise, I believed him. He wasn't the villain in this story. He was just another chapter she'd fabricated to escape accountability. Another audience member for her carefully curated pity narrative. Apparently, in his version, I was cold, emotionally distant, and already dating someone named Camille, a name I haven't even heard since college. The realization hit harder than I expected. She didn't just cheat on me. She erased me. Rewrote our entire relationship into something unrecognizable so she could keep pretending she was the victim. I thanked him, not out of kindness, but out of exhaustion. Then I left. Went home. Walked inside like I always did. And there she was again, on the couch, laptop open, watching a true crime documentary like nothing had changed. But everything had. I sat across from her. Calm. Collected. And I said, I ran into someone today. She looked up, curious. Oh. Kellen, I said. The name froze her mid-bite of yogurt. I know everything, Mara. The hotel. The wine bar. The lies. She blinked. Took a breath. Then, without missing a beat, she said, it's not what you think. I almost laughed again. But I didn't need to argue. Not anymore. I just stood up, walked to the bedroom, and closed the door. Because the version of me who would have fought for her. He didn't live here anymore. The silence after confrontation is never clean. It's not the kind of quiet that lets you breathe. It's thick, restless, like a fog that seeps through the walls and clings to everything you thought was solid. That's what our house became the moment I said Kellen's name out loud. A foggy stage where the performance kept going long after the truth had been revealed. After I told Mara I knew everything, the hotel, the lies, the fake separation story she sold him, she didn't cry. She didn't scream. She didn't even try to deny it beyond those 5 useless words, it's not what you think. What did I think? That my wife, the woman I spent over a decade loving, had orchestrated a second life with the same ease she used to organize our spice rack. That she could lie to both of us, look us in the eye, and still sleep at night like she was the victim. Yeah. That's exactly what I thought. I didn't want a fight. I wanted space. But Mara, she didn't retreat like I expected. In fact, the next morning, she did the opposite. She made breakfast again. Bacon. Toast. My favorite coffee. She even put on that playlist she used to play on lazy Sundays, like she thought music could erase betrayal. She tried small talk. How'd you sleep? I didn't, I said. She nodded, like that was fair. Like we were equals now. Like what she did was just one of those unfortunate things couples work through after a rocky phase. Then she said something that made my skin crawl. I'm glad you finally said something, Lyle. We can heal now. Heal. I didn't know whether to laugh or flip the table. I looked at her, really looked, and saw someone who wasn't ashamed. She was relieved. Like she had been holding in a secret for so long it had started to rot, and now that it was out, she could finally breathe again. But me? I was choking. I left the room. Spent most of the day walking around the neighborhood, hands in my pockets like a tourist in my own life. I passed the corner store where we used to buy ice cream during lockdown. The park bench where we sat after her dad's funeral. Every place was haunted now, not by ghosts, but by who we used to be. When I got home, she was sitting at the table with her laptop open. She said she was looking up couples therapists. I didn't answer. I just grabbed a change of clothes and went to take a long, punishing shower. Steam filled the bathroom. But I still felt cold. That night, she brought up something that shook me deeper than all the lies. I told him it's over, she said from the doorway. I didn't even look at her. Why? Because I want us back. I turned to her then, not with anger, but with disbelief. You want us back? She nodded. I made a mistake, Lyle. A huge one. But I see it now. And I choose you. I still do. Choose me. Like this was a job interview? Like she was selecting a vacation package and I was the safe, all-inclusive option. And then it hit me, she didn't regret what she did. She regretted getting caught. Everything after that moment was strategy. Damage control. She didn't end it with Kellen because her heart came home, she ended it because she saw her house was on fire and she didn't want to lose the insurance. I didn't sleep that night either. I laid there beside her, staring at the ceiling, wondering how many nights she had done the same while texting someone else inches away from me. And then, somewhere between 3 and 4 a.m., I got up, went downstairs, and opened my laptop. I wasn't looking at messages this time. I was looking at apartments. Just one bedroom. Something small. Something temporary. But mine. The next day, I started packing boxes. Slowly. Quietly. I didn't tell her. I didn't need to. I just moved with intention. With finality. That afternoon, she noticed. Are you really doing this? She asked, her voice tight with disbelief. Yeah, I said. I am. You're giving up. No, I said. I'm finally not. And that's when she broke. For the first time in months, maybe years, I saw her lose control. The tears came fast. The voice cracked. The words spilled out like water from a dam. I didn't mean to hurt you. I was confused. I felt invisible. I thought you didn't care. You stopped noticing me. I stopped her right there. No, Mara. I didn't stop noticing you. I just got tired of chasing someone who didn't want to be seen by me. Her sobs echoed down the hallway. And I let them. Because for the first time since this all started, they weren't mine. Moving out didn't feel like an ending, not in the way I thought it would. It didn't feel like slamming a door or tossing a ring on the counter or watching someone disappear in your rearview mirror. It felt calm. Like finally walking away from a song that had been stuck on repeat for years. I packed slowly. Carefully. I didn't rush. I left behind things that weren't mine anymore, the shared memories, the unread notes in drawers, the photo frames that told half the story. I took only what was truly mine, my books, my clothes, my quiet dignity. Mara didn't try to stop me. She watched from the doorway, arms crossed over a sweatshirt she used to steal from my side of the bed. Her face was blotchy. Her eyes swollen. She asked me once, just once, if I would reconsider. I told her no. Not angrily. Not bitterly. Just, no. Because sometimes the strongest thing you can do isn't to fight for love. It's to walk away from the version of love that asks you to shrink, beg, or bleed for it. As I loaded the last box into the car, I turned back one final time. Not to look at her, but at the house. The place that had held both our best and worst versions. The walls that heard our laughter and our silence. And I whispered, just for myself. Thank you. But I'm done now. The apartment was nothing special. Peeling paint. Thin walls. No dishwasher. But when I unlocked the door and stepped inside, it was mine. Empty, yes. Quiet, sure. But honest. It didn't lie to me when I entered. It didn't flinch when I reached out my hand. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't write some long, poetic journal entry. I ordered cheap takeout, watched a dumb comedy, and for the first time in a long time, I laughed. Genuinely. Loudly. The kind of laugh that doesn't need permission. I started calling friends again. I reconnected with my sister, who had been quietly waiting for me to reappear from the fog. I joined a hiking group, me, the guy who used to think climbing stairs was exercise. And I even started writing again. Not stories about heartbreak, but about rebuilding. About rediscovery. I'm not saying it's all perfect now. I still wake up some mornings with that old ache. The kind that whispers, maybe if you'd done more, but I don't listen to it anymore. Because I did enough. I tried enough. I was enough. Mara's story will keep going without me. And I wish her peace. I do. I hope she figures out whatever part of herself she lost along the way. But her journey is no longer mine to carry. Mine looks different now. Mine is quiet coffee mornings without tension. Mine is slow walks without needing to explain where I'm going. Mine is being touched, not because someone feels guilty, but because they want to. And maybe one day, I'll meet someone new. Someone who doesn't flinch when I reach for their hand. Someone who sees me, and doesn't look away. But until then, I'm not lonely. I'm finally free. That's the end of my story, and if you're still here, thank you. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to walk away from something you once thought was permanent? What moment told you it was time? Let's talk about it in the comments, because your story might help someone who's still stuck in theirs. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us again here on Reddit Confessions, where every story starts with the truth, and ends wherever you decide to go next.